Welcome to the Garden of Edun podcast, everyone, where ideas grow. And we're here today with, another one of my old friends. Like this guy I've known for quite a while, on and off. He's been in and out in my life, but we still seem to find a way to keep touching and see what each other's doing. And on my side, Omar, I have to say, your journey has been very interesting to me because you've taken a lot of different like routes from what I remember, like from going to uni to after uni and now into the position that you're in, which is digital producer at BBC Click. So for those of the people that are listening and don't know what it is you do, could you give them like a brief elevator pitch of what it is you do and how you add value to the BBC?
It's cool. I mean, it must have been time, man, since I talked to you, because, like, I mean, last time we played was like a couple of years ago, football. So I ain't talked to you since then. I've done like the thing is, like, being at the BBC and being at Click, I've elevated a little bit. So basically, for everyone that don't know, Click is a tech show that goes out on the BBC. It goes on news. Well, it goes on all around the world. And we go around the world, around the UK, looking at the latest tech and whatever. And my job, I initially went there as you said, a digital producer, as a researcher. And, my job was primarily like looking at things, whether or not it can work for the show, producing packages and, editing things for online on the BBC website. Since I last talked to you, that's changed a bit. So now, man, filming, editing, producing, directing, and now presenting as well for the TV show. So that involves, me spending most of my time, scripting or being in front of camera or being behind it, talking to a bunch of people, in the tech space and, finding out what's what. It's been quite good. I've had a good boss in the sense that, even though I'm a researcher level at the BBC, in these media organizations, sometimes you'll get, a bit of a glass ceiling. Sometimes you're limited by your role or just, maybe some other factor, which I'm sure we'll get into. But my boss has been quite good where he's been giving me chances and he said, yeah, you can try directing. Yeah, you can try presenting or whatever else. So now I am where I am and I'm happy.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's like coming on to what you were saying. That's one of the things that I noticed quite a lot, like in your journey. Because I remember when you were telling me you were, so a bit more context for those listening. Omar and I used to play a lot of football together. So we had this power league group that ran for quite a number of years, like it had a good thing. And I told you, listen, everyone listen, this is way before the days of WhatsApp group chat. This was when one man or a couple man would text like loads of people asking if they could play on a random day, and then whoever texts back first gets in. So sometimes you'd be there, you text, you're like, shit, did I make the cut? And sometimes it would be like 13 people text back. So if you were 13, you didn't make it, or it'd be like 15 or whatever. So we did that for quite a few years. And I remember, so Omar used to be the designated driver to pick me up a lot of the time.
That's why I made the games, man, because I could drive. That's it. Not for my playing ability. I'd pick you. I mean, I was decent.
You picked up. You picked up over the years, though. You improved. You improved a lot.
Yeah, man.
Improved a lot. Wow, man. Time changes. But yeah, one of the things that happened is we obviously had quite a lot of conversations, and I remember when you started off, you were at the BBC Asia Network, right? And I think you were telling me about working there, and then obviously advanced into Click, and I even remember you mentioning going to different places in the world, which we'll get onto. But what I have noticed is it always seems like you're stretching that bit more, and obviously now presenting, and I've seen a couple of the things you've done recently, which we'll definitely get onto too. But one of the things I really wanted to touch on, because obviously you did English at uni, and if I'm not mistaken, masters as well.
Yep. Yeah.
So and then to add even more context too, is the fact that, so out of that group of boys that played football, most of us went to the same school, and typically, well, actually, ironically, there were quite a lot of engineers in that group of people playing football. A lot of engineers, me included, or people doing various kind of like well-to-do subjects, quote unquote. And you know, I didn't at the time necessarily know you as a guy who was interested in like gadgets or games or like computers or that tech world. So had that always been something you were interested in anyway, or was that just something you'd learnt to, you'd become aware that, oh, right, I actually like this. This stuff is really interesting. Can I get paid for it? Like, what was the process?
No, man, I was a teenage boy. Of course, I was like interested in games and computers. A standard, isn't it? It's just, I don't know. I'll tell you what. I went into uni not knowing what I want to do, and you know, initially I did economics while I was in my first year, and then I said, "Ah, this is shit. I don't like it. It's, you know, boring or whatever else." I dropped out, and then I, you know, went in the next year and I did English. Liked it. I said, "Ah, all right, I'll do this as a master's because I can't find a job with an undergrad. So if I can do it post-grad, and post-grad, nah, it weren't happening." And do you know what? It was not too far along after my post-grad that I actually started working for the BBC, and that happened. I'll tell you what, man, this is the thing. A lot of people that I know that work in the Beeb now, you know, they either did a journalism degree, you know, something specific to get into the industry, or, you know, through connections they were able to get in. And with me, it was, you know, a little bit like that and a little bit of a fluke, because my mum's a makeup artist. You know, she's a big one in the Asian industry. Like, a lot of people know her. And so on the Asian network, they got her on to talk about what she does and stuff. And then after they got her on, they were like, you know, she's quite mouthy. That's sick. You know, let's get her on more to, you know, on our debating hours. They'd have like an hourly debate. Okay. So they got her on, you know, on radio and stuff. And then there was one day where she was in the study, like on the phone, like debating something about raising kids. And I'm, I think, 17 at this point. It's like, you know, summer after the first year of A-levels. And I walk in and she's like, yeah, no, I raised my kids and we're like this. And I think she's chatting to a mate. So as she's talking, I go, no, you're chatting shit. And I start disagreeing with her. And you know that fucking, you know, the mum look where she's just like that.
Oh, you fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're gonna like die if you don't exit out of this room right now. So I'm just gonna go. So I ghosted, and then, you know, about 5 minutes later, I get a call, and it's the, you know, radio, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to swear while on air. And whatever's like, no, it's cool. Just, you know, can you come on air? So I'm in one room on the phone, and my mum's in the other, and I'm debating her on national radio.
No way.
That was how it started. And they were like, this kid's just as mouthy as his mum. Let's get him on. So I'm that, you know, young Muslim student who's interested in politics, economics, society, you know, studentship. And I thought, they thought, all right, cool, let's get him on and on. And that carried on for years. And while I was through uni. And over these years, you know, I got to know them better. You know, I knew a few of their names, like Kiran and Sej and Sunil and whatever else. And it ended up being the case that soon after I finished uni, they knew I was looking for a job. They knew I couldn't find a job because man did, you know, post-grad English lit. You ain't going to get a job unless it's academia or something like that. Yeah. So it was a real struggle, and, you know, I was quite disheartened. But then, like, they organized this work experience for me for a week to cover a guy who couldn't do his shifts. He was on holiday. So I went there. I did the work experience. It was literally just answering the phones. Like, they had the debating. I would answer the phone, take the point down, pass it on to the producer. That's it. But I grafted. I showed off a lot of my enthusiasm, a lot of, you know, you know, we could do this. Oh, I'm so excited. And they were like, yeah, it's cool. We like that energy. It's nice to have someone fresh. So they hired me as a freelancer. And from there, I started, you know, I kept on doing that job. But then I was also editing little digital videos, or, you know, sometimes coming up with a couple of guests for the show. And then after a year and a bit of work in there, I moved to Click, and then it just exploded. So I had no idea I was going to work in tech or journalism. I had no desire to be honest with you, man. I'm flying right now. I'm doing well. I still don't know.
Let
So
them
I
know,
still,
man. Let them know. You're
yeah,
doing well.
no, I'll flex it. It's going all right. It's going all right. I can't complain. Like I've recently practically presented a whole show of Click, and never thought I'd do something like that. Even now, I still question myself. And to anyone out there who's
Mm,
going to uni or who's got a job at the moment, that's still wondering, is this for me? It's calm. Even
mm,
though I'm doing well, you're still going to ask yourself those questions. But
mm,
to answer your question, after going on for ages, yeah, back then I had no idea I was going to do what I was going to do. It was literally just like an interest that you've got when you're a teenager. You like games and
mm,
computers and shit. That's it. So I could
mm.
not predict where I was going to be. I mean, same with you. I'm sure, with what you're doing at the moment, and you had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. It's a similar story. I think, like you, like I from young, I've always been interested in other people, having conversations, finding out people's stories, because then it means you can write good stories yourself because you've got good source material to take from, and then also just, I guess, understanding what, like, the possibilities and what you're able to do. So yeah, for me, like, going from engineering now to like doing marketing, doing fucking podcasts, and like writing books and shit, like it's mad. It's just mad. So I really resonate with that. And one thing I also like would like to find out from you, because it's something that I experienced before I went into this job that I'm at now, is, okay, so you worked at BBC Asia Network for just over a year, um, freelancing, like you said. So I guess maybe there wasn't as much pressure. So when you get called up now and it's like, okay, BBC Clicks coming in for you, did you apply, or did they come in for you, or what was what was happening there? Just quickly.
Well, so to be honest with you, there was a journalist called Katrin who used me in one of her, like, she did a panel full of Muslims from different sects and
Hmm.
beliefs, to talk about ISIS.
Sure.
And after she got me in for that, it was like, maybe 3 years after I started working for the BBC. So, me and her caught up, and she's great. Once she sees someone that she likes and she thinks, let me help them along, she does. And
Hmm.
so she got me a couple of shadow shifts at the Vic Derbyshire show. And then she said, hey, one of my good mates is Simon Hancock at Click. I'll do you an intro and then see if you've got any freelance shifts. So I did. I went and had a chat with him. He had no freelance shifts, not for someone like me who was very low skilled, like, especially looking at the team today, I can understand why. But he said to me, we've got a round of jobs coming, and your entry level, basically, it'll be good if you apply for that and see where you go. And to be honest with you, I did my, flipping hell. I mean, I hope my boss don't watch this, but the interview happened on the day. You remember there was that stabbing on Westminster Bridge, like a few years ago.
Westminster Bridge. Maybe. Oh, where there was a car as well. Yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
that
Yeah.
was a busy day, and that was the day of my interview. Now the thing is, I did a bit of reading of Click beforehand, very very minimal. I had never. I really didn't.
You can admit that now, right?
Yeah,
No one can come for your head now.
I was being a bit sheepish about it. No, I'll own it. I got the job with minimal effort. Nah, honestly, I did a bit of reading, and to be honest with you, I didn't know how to prepare for the board. No one really taught me. I went to talk to one of the team members a few days beforehand. Bless him, I love him, but he talked for ages. But there wasn't much that I could get from there of what I'd actually be asked in the interview. So
Right.
I thought, okay, let me find out a bit more about the show and whatever else, and I did. And then on the day of the interview, about 10 minutes before it was going to happen, I lost track of time. I was like, there's been a stabbing, I'm working on that. But then all of a sudden, job prospect. So then I
Yeah.
started watching Click. It was the first time I watched Click. I watched Click for 7 minutes before my interview. I grabbed a couple of names. I remembered them. And then I went. And honestly, it was not a good way of doing it. And I went to my interview. And it was my boss there, my deputy, now deputy, and he clocked on. My boss See, the thing is, my deputy is very clued on, and Alan, he could tell. Yeah,
Oh,
this is not someone well
he
prepared.
smelt the bullshit. He smelt the bullshit from
He
far
did.
away.
He did. It was, to be honest, like I said, I did, a bit of research and stuff. I didn't know how to prepare. So when I came in, they were looking for content ideas. I never knew I had to bring ideas of what they could possibly do on the show. I thought it was just about, how could you transform the show, the social media approach. And those are the things I focused on and studied. So afterwards, my boss called me like the next day and he said, listen, you
Every episode.
there and frozen.
Oh,
Are you still there?
sorry, bro. I just cut
No,
out there for a second. If
no,
you,
no, no, it's cool.
so your boss, you
Okay.
said your boss called you, and he spoke to you. Yeah.
He spoke to me and he sugarcoated it. He said my interview was okay, and I was like, okay, but he was like, I still need a little bit more from you. You've got 1 minute. Convince me that I'm going to give you this job. I cannot for the life of me fucking remember what I said. I honestly poured my heart out, and then he was like, all right, cool, I'll give you the job. And I was ecstatic. And it was only maybe a year later when I interviewed for an internal job at Click, and then the job to make it permanent, that I realized, wow, I really didn't prepare as much as I needed to, because I had no idea how to.
Wow.
And my deputy actually came out to me and he said to me, yeah, your first interview was shit. Like, I would not have hired you.
Wow.
It's because of my boss, trusting me. And,
Yeah.
he went by his gut a little bit as well. I mean, I scored enough points on the interview basis, but it was between me and someone else, and I just edged it. So that's the thing. With the BBC or wherever you go, there's going to be some bureaucracy. There's going to be some, boxes that you're going to have to tick in your interview, certain keywords, certain values that you have to bring up and whatever else, which is absolutely fine. But you've got to let yourself shine through. And even though I was nervous during an interview, my boss had talked to me enough beforehand and even afterwards to know that, you know what, this kid is someone who's enthusiastic. He's got a lot of ideas. He will give his all for the job. And you know what? I've tried to repay him back since that day, and I'm hoping he thinks I have. I'm doing well enough. So, yeah, it was a funny one, that was, but I am where I am now as a result.
Yeah, that's such a sick story, man. I think those moments people talk about where an opportunity presents themselves, they're not quite ready. I mean, maybe in your case, you could have watched more of BBC Click, maybe not 7 minutes before the interview, but there we go. But I think it's a great point about seizing opportunities while they're there, and I guess as well, because even though you might not give yourself as much credit for this, maybe you do, but you obviously must have had a certain energy to you, and then also you'd done some things within the BBC anyway before that kind of gave you enough for them to call you and say, listen, I'm giving you another chance because I felt something from you. And maybe that's the most important energy to have for people when they're embarking on a new endeavor that they're not quite sure about, they're uncertain about, especially in the creative industry, which is super subjective. Yes, you have metrics like numbers, retweets and likes and all this stuff, but ultimately it's very subjective. And with that, then it means intuition becomes quite a big factor. So I guess having that energy going in is really important. And one of the things I was going to bring up a little bit earlier, but I'll talk on now is so you get the job for BBC Click, and obviously that's your gassed. You're thinking, yeah, man, I'm in now. I'm here.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, yo, you got a job to do. So tell me what were the things that daunted you or worried you that you were anxious about when you first step in and you realize, oh, this is what I'm going to have to do. Or these are the things I have to fulfill. And tell me a little bit about that. What were those things for you starting off?
I think it was two main things. One of them was just how much I had to do for the show in terms of it was a massive step up from what I usually do. So, you know, in a very short amount of time, I was picking up a camera. I was looking to produce a piece for the show. Like 2 months after I joined, I'd never produced a piece before. And it was just, you know, it was very much a, you know, sink or swim kind of environment. Everyone was there and helpful. You know, I've got to say that, you know, the people at Click are very helpful. And if you ask them a question, you know, they're more than happy to help you. But then at the same time, you know, you've got to quickly adapt and pick up a lot of skills. I mean, I've got to say, I was quite tentative because I was one of 5 people that joined. And this was the biggest amount of additions that they had ever. So it was quite a big thing for the team. No one knew had joined in about 5 years. And out of the 5, I was the least experienced. I was, you know, the least skilled. And that was daunting in itself. And so it meant that they were doing a lot more than me a lot earlier on. They were developing quicker than me. And you know what? My boss, you know, has been honest about this. He said that after the first 6 months, he thought, you know what, maybe, you know, he's not cut out for this, because I only had like a 1-year contract. So he was thinking, maybe he's not, you know, this ain't the one for him. And it kind of ties in with the second thing that daunted me. You know, I had massive imposter syndrome. And you know what? I still do. You know, I'm surrounded by people who have been doing this for years, excellent journalists. You know, they know their editorial, their output is just beautiful. What am I doing here? I still think that now. I was part of a scheme where, you know, a lot of young journalists were being mentored, and they had this reception evening. And I went there and I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to meet other people like me. And then they all turned up all suited and booted. And they were like, yeah, I've got my NCTJ and I've got my degree in this and I've been doing this for so many years and I've done lives here and there. And I'm like, yeah, man, I edit digital videos. Like, I actually left early. I felt very uncomfortable.
Wow. How
was
recent was this, by the way? Was this
that was 2 years ago. I've been at Click for 3 years. That was about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And and to be honest with you, I still hate networking events. I still can't do them. I don't like showing off, and I don't like, you know, I like I said, imposter syndrome. You know, you feel like you don't fit in. And you know what? It was after that I kind of just, you know, after having a chat with some people close to me, you know, especially one person, they were just like, you know, and they gave me the best piece of advice. They were just like, fuck it all. Don't think about it. If you think about it too much, you're never going to do it. You're going to paralyze yourself with fear. Said to me, just have that moment of fearlessness, complete stupidity, complete brainlessness. Just throw yourself in there. 10 seconds of brainlessness. Once you've thrown yourself in there, only then can you gain the courage to do those things. And you know what? It worked, because my boss handed me a massive project. We were going to Vegas in that January, and, which was sick. Yeah, I can confirm. Like, we would do work. Most of my days is like 18-hour work days, but, you know, we go casino, we have some drinks, you know.
Yeah, here and there. You know, there's still 6 hours of the day that you got left to party. So you're in Vegas, man.
You're sleeping, exactly. It's sick. Like I've been there like 5-6 times now for work. It's mental.
Because I actually had this in my notes. You know, I had this in my notes for you, bro. I was gonna say, so that Vegas, those Vegas trips. What was happening? What was it, like a convention, or was it a massive conference? What was going on work-wise?
Yeah, no, it's so, like, in January, there's this massive convention called CES. It's like the world's biggest electronic show, you know. And in July, August, there's DEF CON, which is like a hackers conference. So every year I went to both of these things, stayed there for a week. Especially with CES, and even with DEF CON, what it meant is that we'd go there on a Saturday, arrive, start working on a Sunday. We do like, seriously, like 12 to 18-hour days every day until like the Thursday, because we've got to film everything, script it, edit it, send it back to London. They put it together over here, and that show goes out that weekend. So literally like, I'd like to say I had a lot of fun, but honestly, the work is grueling, and that's what happened first time around. Like, you know, but for the preparation for my first Vegas trip, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to take lead here. Like, screw it. Like, in the meeting, my boss said, oh, we need to do this and whatever else. And then I had that moment where I just thought, well, I didn't think. And I just said, yeah, I'll do it. No fucking clue how I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
No, well, I had got, you know, some guidance from someone a bit more senior, but it was a lot to undertake and, you know, a massive trip with a lot of money involved to take responsibility for. I did it, and I did it well. And my boss recognized how well I did. And after that, he said, you know what, might hang on to this boy after all. And he did. And I've done the exact same thing each and every step of the way, whether it's presenting, my first time presenting, man, fuck. One like set of lines, yeah, like a good 30 words to memorize and to get out. It took me 45 minutes. It took about like 20 plus takes just to get my first piece to camera. But again, like I said yes to it, even though I had no clue I was going to do it or whatever else. And yeah, I've recognized that. That's, you know, what work is. That's what journalism is. I mean, many people across the industry and people that I've been honest with have been honest with me. A lot of opportunities come by just saying, yeah, even though you're not going to know how to do it. That's fine. You know, you've got to have the bravery to try something new. And I've done that time and time again. So that was the turning point for me. And as daunting as things can be, and as much as you may feel out of place or like you're not on the same levels as others, so what? Fuck it. You're not going to be. You're going to get there one day, but you've got to at least make that first step. No matter what you may think, no matter fear you have, make that step. Then you're going to roll.
Most definitely, man. That leap of faith moment, slightly different. It's just like you just have to launch yourself in and believe that you'll figure it out on the way, right? You just have to think, right, fuck. You kind of, in the back of your mind, there's that voice going, are you sure you want to do it? But it's almost like, I hear you, but fuck you, I'm doing this anyway. And I'm going to I'll deal with the details later. And then, you know, as you probably knew, like that Tuesday when you're in Vegas, you're probably thinking, fuck, what have I got myself in on here? This is mad. How am I going to pull this one through? Jesus. I've still got all this stuff to edit. We've still got all these scripts to write. Like, we've still got to post-produce this. You know, I imagine there's all these different tasks and projects that you have to get done. And you think, oh, I'm overwhelmed. But eventually you make it through. And to be honest, you needed to do that. You said you needed to do that to prove that you were up to the task. So that's sick. I think that's again another good lesson for people who may dither because they're not so sure whether something's for them. It's better to just have the leap of faith, because then, you know what, if that happened, if you took the leap of faith and it didn't work out, hey, you had an experience. You got to go to Vegas for a week, all paid for. Like, you got to go and see these mad conferences. Like the CS conference must be sick. Like, I can imagine it must be
hundreds of thousands of people, man. Honestly, the shit that we see there is immense. And you know what? This is the thing. And I've got to say, I'm blessed. I've got a team who, even though I'm taking that leap of faith, if I've got a question, they'll answer it. You know, you got that support. And this is the thing. There'll be moments along the way where you start doubting yourself again. Yeah, it's fine. Just get a hold of, you know, even if it's not someone on the team, get a hold of someone personal and just, you know, let it out, breathe, and then just dive right back into it. At the end of the day, yeah, you know, it still takes a lot of work after that first leap of faith, but just do it anyway, because you will, and you can figure it out. You've just got to put the work in. It's just getting over your fear. Fear is, you know, the biggest limiter for some people when, you know, you're battling things yourself. Obviously, there are a lot of external factors, but for that battle within yourself, fear is probably your biggest enemy.
I think it's, what's the acronym we have for fear? False evidence appearing real? Something like that?
I know that one.
Yeah. Oh, really? I thought that was the most popular one. Yeah, false evidence appearing real. I always try to remember that when they come in. I think I was speaking to my mum the other day, actually. She was telling me she read, know that book? I think, is it Homo Sapiens? Is it that book?
Homo Sapiens?
Is it Homo Sapiens? It's one of the, or Homo Deus or something. Like, I don't even know. I can't remember who wrote it, but she was mentioning an interesting fact in there. And it said something like, 80% of our thoughts are negative, like negative based on fears, worries, and anxieties. But out of that 80%, only I think it's something like 90% of those things don't even come into fruition. Like they just don't happen. So it's
Yeah.
just a waste of time, really. Like most of it is a waste of time. And then of the 10% left, 72% of those things we can actually deal with anyway. So most of it is just not, it really isn't real. So I think that's important to remember. Obviously though, you know, you have that leap of faith moment, and you know, you have that jolt of energy, and it kind of gives you the momentum to carry through. But obviously there is like one of the things that I'm quite interested in is how people improve over time, because obviously those jolts of energy don't come all the time, and sometimes you have to intentionally allocate periods where you improve on certain skills. So for yourself, because obviously there's quite a lot of different skills that come with your job, which you said you didn't necessarily have before going in. So what kind of things would you say you're proud that you have intentionally improved since working on the job, and how did you do that?
Sounds so boring, but timekeeping. It's especially with a job like Click, you have to juggle, you know, a number of projects on the go. You can't just work on one thing exclusively, and you lose track of. I mean, you know, especially during lockdown, man, I can very easily go past my normal hours and look up, and it's like 11 o'clock at night or something, and my boys are asking me like, "Why aren't you on Warzone?" And I'm like, "Hi." But it's timekeeping is a big thing because, you know, you've got to, I mean, it's going to contradict what I say, because timekeeping, you've got to be able to like separate and be like, yeah, those are my hours, that's it, done. I'm going to spend this much time on this. I'm going to try not to dither around, you know, you're going to lull sometimes, you know, allow for that. But at the same time, you know, I mean, you've got to have that space for yourself and your mental health. But at the same time, I've got to admit, a lot of skills and a lot of things that I've improved in practically, like filmmaking and editing and, you know, being creative and whatever else, I've done in my spare time. And I've done that because I enjoy the job, you know. So, you know, if I did something I didn't enjoy, then I'm only punishing myself or trying to improve myself outside of that time. But, you know, I love, you know, being creative. Like right now, I'm trying to make a show reel of everything I've done. And I'm having fun with it. It doesn't feel like work. So, you know, timekeeping is a big one. Knowing your limits, you know, because, you know, with my job, you know, you can very easily, like you said, you can have those lulls where you ain't got that spark, you ain't got that get up and go. That's calm. Accept it. You know, don't try and force it. Just own it. Say to yourself, I can have that because I've been like blitzing it lately. Don't beat yourself up about it, because I, you know, ended up one time, I went to LA to film at E3. Sick week.
Jeez.
Lots of work, man.
Tell us about E3, actually, just quickly.
E3 is so. I mean, LA is amazing. It's really. Do you know how they say like New York is the like really hard place of America, and you know, LA is a real soft place, and it is because, you know, it's beaches, it's, you know, plastic surgery, it's, you know, restaurants and stuff. LA was sick, and E3 was great because, you know, you see the games that you grew up on, you know, big AAA titles that you're excited for and whatever else. It's good, but then at the same time, and I hate to sound like, you know, a bit of a misog, but it ain't what you think. So when watching E3, not last year, but the year before, I was, you know, obviously keeping up with all the highlights and stuff and the lives. I was like, this is sick, man. This is coming out. I can't wait. I wish I was there to feel the magic. Man, when you're there and you're working on TV and you're trying to turn that show around for that weekend, you ain't got time to feel the magic. You're there filming all day, then you come back and you're editing until 3 o'clock in the morning because the news at 6 and 10 want a piece. It's grueling, but this is the thing: you've got to, every now and again, And I did this during LA. There was one day, it was a Thursday, I remember it very well. I was in the middle of the Nintendo hall. Man likes his Mario, his Pokemon and everything. And I was working so hard and, so hectically that I didn't realize where I was. And so after filming was done, instead of going back to the hotel, I took half an hour. I stood back, I put my gear away, and I just walked. And I just took in everything. And I, like Luigi's Mansion, Pokemon, Mario Olympics, like Zelda. And I get that feeling that I felt when I was a teenager. And it's very easy to lose yourself and lose perspective, when you're so stuck in a job. And, it can be as light as something as E3, or it can be as something as heavy as migrants trying to sell their way to the UK, and you're on a boat next to them trying to ask them if they're okay.
Woo. Oh, that's a pretty heavy topic at the moment. I like the way you segued that in there nicely. Omar, who's controlling this podcast flow? It's both of us. It's both of us.
Garden of Mehtab. No, it's calm. It's calm.
No, that's
It's something that I think we probably would have talked of anyway.
It's something that I wanted to swing. It's that I wanted to swing to quickly, but you segued into it nicely. I can't lie. Do you think that's what's happening with some of the way that it's being reported? It's almost like, oh, you know what? This is just one of my things that I look at in the media industry in general. I feel like a lot of the time, and I'd love to hear your own opinion on it as well, there can be like a lack of empathy in the way things are reported, and it's almost like too much of a focus of, this is my profession, this is my job, this is what I get paid to do, rather than actually what you did in the Nintendo hall, which is take a moment, took 30 minutes, and you became just the human again and looked at the situation you're in. In the one you were in, raw, this is sick. Like, my 10 years younger self is gassed that I'm here. What? I'm in LA and this is amazing. And then on the flip side, with this particular situation, you do that and it's like, whoa, what is going on over here? So yeah, it always strikes me that people in that particular profession where they're, let's say, on the ground reporters, find it, at least to me, so easy to just switch off the humanity when like death or the potential of death is literally so close. So I'd love to hear your opinion about that.
The thing is, like, one of my passions for a story isn't just tech, but how tech affects people. So I've done stories on like a war hero was, couldn't find work when he got back and he went into coding. That was beautiful. Deaf, these pair of Eritrean twins who were deaf, they felt music for the first time ever. They wore these haptic feedback shirts when going into a rave. Filming their reactions for the first time was beautiful. Wow. Human emotions and human elements to stories are, key. And it's, that empathy that you feel whilst on the job and just even as a person, that can help change the kind of output that we have and what the audience sees. When it comes to, the migrant boats and what happened there, I get why, I get what they were thinking. I know what they were thinking. They were thinking, this is access. This is, if we were in a war zone, we'd be on the ground with a, flak jacket and reporting. This is something similar. I don't think it should have gone out. I don't think they should have, sailed out to these, migrants trying to literally risk their lives, for survival, just to ask them if they were okay and give them a little thumbs up. Like, they don't want to know that. What does that offer us? That offers nothing. It doesn't, give us that humanity that you want from them. If you want to talk to them when they land, find out their story. Don't talk to them as they're trying to flipping take water out of the boat. You know, there's too much at times of, you know, an obsession to get the access and get the pictures that no one else is going to get. And it's that loss of empathy that doesn't help. And the BBC has been in a few situations as well that, you know, has been quite questionable as of recent. It happened with Kobe. When Kobe died, they put out LeBron James. Man's got a different build, different head, beard. He's, you know, got his name on the back of his shirt. It's just, and this is the thing, you know, when Naga Manchetti, you know, said something on air on Breakfast, one complaint by one person had an investigation opened up about her, you know, talking about racism on air. When the N-word was used twice.
Yeah.
Once in the report, once in the doc. You know, it took 18,000 complaints and Sideman quitting his gig.
Yeah.
For there to be an apology. And even before that, there was a defense. When you look at the report, and I've spoken about this with a number of people, just generally, at the end of the day, if you're going to say, they racially abused this boy, yeah, they were throwing racial slurs at him. I know what they were saying. You know what they were saying. We all do. You don't need to say the word. There's no justification. The family did not give you a pass to say that word. That means you got to use it. Nah, just you know, it's not something that's supposed to be said. You ain't gonna get someone telling you not to say the word unless they are black. Unless you get someone who's working class telling you, hey, you know what? You sent a reporter out, you know, to Grenfell, and you know he's suited and booted, and he's talking to these people. There's a bit of a disconnect. Maybe send someone else. The representation of diverse backgrounds, like, you know, they throw the word BAME around and whatever else, you know, which is contentious in itself. But any kind of person that is an ethnic minority or from a different religion or from a different class, I mean, they're looking at race at the moment. Yeah, a lot of people. They ain't touching class, like working class and that. Unless you get these people into advanced senior editorial positions to affect your output and to make those big decisions and to look at what's going out there, you ain't going to get change. They, you know, many media organizations are hiring people from diverse backgrounds in lower positions where they can't make that change. They are trying to build themselves up, but because of the glass ceiling that exists, you know, when it comes to your race, when it comes to whatever, they ain't going to get in a higher position than what, you know, perhaps a white person would or a middle-class person would. That's just the way it is. It's not controversial to say. It is the way it is. We need to do better. And until you put those people in those positions, you're going to have mistakes in your output. I mean, you know, saying the N-word on air, I still do not understand. But I mean, how is it for you? I mean, you're watching that, you're seeing it on Twitter. How does it feel for you? Well, what does that say to you about the media organizations that are out there?
So it's funny because I'm actually writing a little piece about this at the moment, which will be out soon for everyone who wants to read that on Blackprint Media. Shout out Blackprint. So I'm going to be writing a piece on that, and you know, I'll just share some of my thoughts now. Firstly, actually, just to talk on you talking about people in positions, I think I agree with everything you said, and I think why it's important is because those people have the context of what is happening on the ground in all these different situations. So like you were saying, Grenfell, if the reporter that goes out to Grenfell is one of the mandem, the way the story or the stories and the way those people connect with that person, and then because of who that person represents, the BBC is probably going to be a lot healthier, and the stories that come out are going to be a lot more genuine, and they're going to be a lot more transparent than if you have somebody who's not of that background going in there and not really connecting with those people, not really getting their vibe. And then, you know, you take that in loads of other different contexts, like you were saying. The other thing I do also have to ask, though, is are these things being done intentionally to spark controversy? Because like, in my head, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm giving way too much credit to some of the organizations. And to be honest, knowing human nature, you know, systems are inherently flawed. Things can fall through the gaps. Like it's very easy. There's no entity that has 100% control of every situation. Shit's gonna happen. However, because of the frequency that, at least from my own personal experience, that I've seen it, like even with the M word thing, like for me, it feels like, can we really chalk this all down to ignorance? That's the question that I have in my head. Is it all ignorance? Because it seems to me, it seems too far-fetched for everything to be ignorance. But then maybe I could be wrong, and maybe like yourself, being in the organization, you can actually be like, actually, no, there's some people that just really do not get it. So yeah, that's where my question is. Is it intentional? Because the ignorance seems too ridiculous to me at times.
You know what? I asked myself the same question before I joined the BBC. And even now, while I'm at the BBC, even with this recent N-word thing, I thought the same thing. Nah, surely someone must have thought we should not say this. But you know what? And you know, at the end of the day, media in general, and, you know, even in the BBC, and they are trying to, you know, like I say, bring in more people from different backgrounds. That change isn't happening fast enough, and, you know, it is going to be a long-term thing. So in the meantime, the people who are, you know, middle class, the people who are, you know, predominantly white, who may not connect with the same issues that me and you would, they are in these positions, and they aren't exposed to the things that we are. They aren't exposed to the same ways of thinking. Some of them aren't on social media, so they don't even see the backlash. I've talked to a number of people, you know, across the BBC. They're either like you and me, or they're either on the other end of the spectrum, where they are someone who is just not connected or apparently, you know, aware of it at all. And these people, unfortunately, some of them are in these positions. And this is the thing. I can't say, you know, oh, you know, fuck them or anything, because that ain't right. At the end of the day, they are who they are, and their experience is their own. It's unfortunate that they are not as, you know, what's the word, exposed to what we are. But I can't say that's any particular fault of their own. You know, there's ignorance, and then there's just, you ain't going to come across that in life. Some people never do. Like, you know, one of my best mates, Matt, you know Matt.
Yeah.
My guy did not experience racism at all until we went to Berlin, and we went on a train, and this guy picked a fight with a brown guy next to us simply because he was brown, and he was calling him a bomber and everything. That was the first time I had ever seen racism, and we all got in a scrap as a result.
How old was he at this point? How old was he at this point? Yeah.
Matt was 21, 20, 21.
He was 21. And that was the first time he'd seen it live in the flesh.
Yeah.
Raw.
Man, I've talked to people that, you know, have admitted to me they've never met a person of color until they went to uni, because they live in a village somewhere, and, you know, they ain't gonna, you know, find anyone that's, you know, of color like me and you. So it is, at the end of the day, these people are people who are in these positions, and they're not going to get it right each and every time. And their way of thinking won't reflect ours. And so they'll make decisions that they think, okay, editorially it's justified and it's fine. But that sense of, you know, what will the people say is not there, or what kind of backlash will we get from these, you know, minority ethnic communities. And so I can't say it's intentional. I can't, because as much as, you know, I used to think, you know, is it? Surely not. Unfortunately, these things do happen. Like, even with the Kobe thing, you know, that was something that, as I later found out, you know, was a genuine mistake, and it was a rush of time thing. But even then, you'd think if you had someone in the team who was, you know, at least interested in basketball. See, this is the thing. I'm not even saying bring someone in who's, you know, if you're doing a story about Pakistani cricket, bringing in someone in Pakistani doesn't mean that you're going to get the right answer. They may not be into it. You know, check with a sports reporter, you know, check with someone, you know, who's into it. And unfortunately, not all these things happen in the process. Usually it's just, okay, we're confident this is the case, and that's it. And so, unfortunately, these mistakes do just happen. And, you know, I'm very, very careful. Like, even, you know, talking to yourself now, I'm careful about what I say, because as much as I've got to
Mm-hmm.
criticize the state of media in general, at the same time, I'm in it and I see it day to day. And I know the amount of good that happens. I know, the people, like my boss, for instance. My boss is someone who, has lifted me and given me chances. And you won't
Mm-hmm.
see another, Pakistani guy working on shows like this as often as what I am. And that's just the way it is right now. Hopefully that will change. And I'm trying to help bring other people up as well. But these things take time. So, you know what? I do feel anger and I do feel disappointment whenever I see these things happen. But I've just got to remind myself, you know what? The change is slow. It's going to be a slow
Mm.
grind. It's calm. We'll try and speed it up where we can. But unfortunately, with the status quo, with the way media is at the moment, and the majority of people in it that are predominantly white, that are a lot of them are middle class.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the majority output that we see is going to reflect that. But we're getting more. We're getting, more working class people are pitching stories. They are seeing, the other perspectives and things that are happening, whether it be coronavirus or with Grenfell or whatever else. We are hearing from those people that otherwise wouldn't be heard. It's just, we've got to realize that, it's going to be a slow change. So.
Yeah, I'm with you on that as well. Change, especially when it's a change that's at such a deeply rooted psychological level for a lot of people, and then even just on an experience level, like you were talking about, you and Matt being in Berlin, and that's the first time he's ever seen racism live in the flesh in his early 20s. Before then, if you don't even have an awareness of it, it doesn't even seem real to you, and then that forms your opinion. And I think, like we were saying earlier, those changes happening at the top level where decisions are made is where we'll start to see maybe those behaviors start to be purged and addressed within the wider society, which then informs their behavior. And then we start to see that change slowly trickle out. I'm curious to see, because I feel like we're in this kind of midpoint, right? So what I mean to say is, obviously, if we look at particularly, like, let's say, London culture, and like the multiculturalism of London has become quite popular in the UK for the first time ever, really. Like, if we look at the music scene, and if we look at even in like the acting industry, and we're seeing more people from various different backgrounds, working class backgrounds as well, coming through and doing very well for themselves, and actually influencing culture. Like, you got Stormzy telling ITV to suck their mums on Twitter, and like, he's saying that knowing it's going to have no effect on his career at all, right? So I say that to say that there's been a shift in terms of where things have moved, like power, and in terms of affecting change. And now I'm looking at the situation thinking, so is there more? Are the gears going to shift more, or is this where it plateaus and stops? So I guess the only answer to that is seeing what happens over time. But yeah, I think also the things that we can do is speak when we do see things where, for example, the N-word is reported on the news, or the wrong image is used for a certain person, or the way stories are reported aren't given the context by people actually, of that situation or close to that situation. And instead, people are so far removed that really their opinion doesn't hold any weight, because they have no valid experience of being in that situation. I think us as a general community speaking on those things is where we'll be facilitating that gear change. So yeah, exciting times ahead. Hopefully, fingers crossed, man. Speaking of like exciting opportunities, bro, what kind of things? Because obviously to someone like me who's completely out of the media industry. Honestly, I see you working at BBC and I'm like, rah, Omar, you're on big things now. Like this is like top tier level. So what kind of things have you worked on where you've looked back and thought, rah, this was like, I'm so proud of that I did there, this opportunity that I did there, that I never in a million years would have thought I'd have the opportunity to do. Maybe it's some of the things you mentioned before, or maybe there's other kind of smaller things which may not seem as big on the outside, but you looking at it think, actually, no, this was really big for me to do. What kind of things would you look at?
I guess, I mean, like, you got the obvious ones. My first report that went out, seeing myself on TV for the first time, doing my first lead piece for Click. That was something. Presenting my first show, which, you know, happened not long ago. I think the evening, the best shoot I've ever had is one that's got nothing to do with me. I'm not presenting, got nothing to do with anyone else in the team. It was those Eritrean twins. It was the deaf twins who were just, you know, I mean, it was on, it was near flipping O2, you know, and we're on that bank. There was a club there, and they've got, like, you know, right on the river, like there, and opposite is Canary Wharf. And I remember the shots were beautiful. Like, the shooting was immense, and I was really proud of my shooting. But I think that the thing that really touched me, and the thing that I want to help get across in the future with my reports, you know, given, my background, my color, my religion, is to help people who don't have a voice have a voice. I mean, these girls were deaf, you know, they didn't talk, they were using sign language, and just seeing their faces as they were walking through for the first time, and their reaction to the shirt suddenly moving, you know, with the music, like up here you had the treble and you had the bass over here and the whatever high tones and shit, and that was just watching them in amazement just filled me with joy, because there are moments like that that are just so rare. I remember, like, another episode that clicked on a girl who was, like, mostly blind. She wore these glasses. She was practically blind. She wore these glasses, and they, you know, used AI or something to, you know, put outlines on objects, and she could see through them. And she, like, for the first time in years, she could see. And the presenter, Spencer, he cried on stage. It was a very, very powerful moment. How these things, how tech, and how just, you know, whatever it may be in the future that I work on, whether it be in the tech space, health space, whatever, how this can affect people's lives, what it means to those individuals, how we have the power to put their voices on air to show everyone else around the world the experiences that they'll never have. And it kind of ties back to what we were talking about, you know, a lot of people in the industry not being of color, not having those experiences. You know, I think the most important thing is being, and it rolls back to what we were talking about originally, being empathetic, being, you know, not just saying, oh, it doesn't happen to me, so it doesn't exist. Opening up your mind to the idea that other people, you know, have different experiences. At the end of the day, everyone has their own shadow, and in that shadow are things that we'll never see. You know, it's completely black, and those are things that they will only truly understand. We can at least see into their world. We can hear the things that we never thought we would hear, you know, see the things that we never thought we would see, and think the things that we never thought we'd think. Broadcast has such an amazing power to change people's lives, to show others out there, you know, what we're going through, what other people are going through. And that moment, I stood back at one point. I turned off the camera and I was just watching them dance, and I, you know, just well up of emotion. And then after the shoot was done, the thing is, because you get so busy, I don't know if it's with anyone else or with yourself, but, you know, you kind of just go on autopilot, and you go through the day, you don't realize where the time's gone, but also you're half not taking in things. You ever get that?
Yeah, like you you're running an autopilot. You're just like, okay, I'm on to the next thing. Just like
You
that.
just live it. You're not really taking in the moment.
Yeah.
I, yeah, I took in the moment then. I stood
Mm,
back and took in that moment. But on my drive home, I was just thinking about what it meant to them,
mm,
and how that was the closest I was ever going to feel to what they felt. It's going to be nowhere near, but that's the closest I'm going to get. And through my camera, through what I've recorded and what the piece I was going to edit, other people are going to get the same feeling that I got. That was
mm,
magical, and that's what I want at the end of the day, and that's why I want more diversity in higher positions. That's why I want voices of people that are black, brown, people from the Far East, people from South America, people from all over, to tell the stories and that aren't going to be heard otherwise. These ideas need to be commissioned. These ideas need to be put at the forefront. Things are the way they are now. I think in recent times there's been a lot more. I mean, Islamophobia. There's
mm,
been a lot more talk of racism, and obviously you've got the Black Lives Matters movement as well. I mean, that's just going off centuries of mistreatment, but even
mm,
today that still exists. And empathy, that is the key thing. Empathy can unlock so much. It can, you know, change your mindset from, oh well, no, all lives matter, and I don't really care about the movement, and it's not something I'm concerned about because I'm not going through it, to, oh, you know what,
mm,
no, we should do something about it. This change that you're talking about, the gear change, it can happen and
mm,
it will happen. I'm very sure of that. It's got to
mm,
come from us. It's got to come from yourself. You doing this podcast. It's got to come from me, someone working in media who has the chance and ability to have those voices heard.
mm.
And it's through that we'll reach the next gear change. We have the power. We've just got to use it. That's it.
Wow. That was very powerful, man. I feel no, really, really, bro. I felt the when you were talking about the two girls, the two Eritrean twins, and I was just you were describing it perfectly, because in my head I'm thinking, yeah, imagine not hearing music and then you just feel it, like just feel it, and there's all these things going on. Yeah, that must be a madness. Wow. Yeah, you really took me with you there on that story. Um,
And
and
that's what broadcast can do. That's the thing. That
mm,
I'm just saying it there, man. But what we see on TV, man, what we're seeing online, these podcasts, or whatever else, we have that opportunity, and you're doing a great thing with what you're doing, and it's just about
thank you, man.
using that power, and I'm glad you are. And it's honestly, I thank you. Like, I know we're not done yet, but thank you for getting me on anyway. Just
No,
it's
man.
been a relief being able to just, I mean, like I said this to you at the beginning of the conversation, I work for the BBC at the end of the day. And so,
Mm,
I have to be careful with what I say, but what I've said is pretty much the truth. There are areas of it that I am going to criticize, because
mm,
I'm not doing it to shit on the BBC. I'm doing it because I want the BBC to do better. I want media
mm.
to do better, mainstream media to do better. And you're only ever going to, address these problems if you talk about it.
Yeah, facts. And I'm sure a lot of people appreciate that, because I feel like there's a fear, especially when you work for something which is a large machine, a fear to criticize in case of backlash and things like that. But I think these conversations are important, and you can only get improvement if you're willing to look in the mirror, or willing to look at these areas to improve. Without it, you're not going. Nothing will ever change. Like, you always have to assess things and take stock and look at things and think, actually, you know what, that was a bit of a madness. These are the things we need. These are the solutions in this area, so we can address that and reduce the amount of madnesses that happen here. So no, I appreciate you speaking up on it, because it adds a lot of value, especially for people listening. And because there might be some people who listen and may have a certain opinion about the BBC, and knowing that you're working there and that your mission, because in that last segment where you were talking about why you know, your purpose with broadcasting and to share stories of those that don't have a voice, I feel like that will resonate with a lot of people who may not have thought that these organizations even have people who have those intentions. So I think it's sick that you've been able to speak on it. And one of the things I really wanted to ask you, because this might be even more relevant for maybe a few people that are listening to this, is for those people who want to get into the industry that you're in a big like media publication like BBC or others in a similar space, who have quite a big platform to share their stories and their opinions internationally. Would you give them any, or what kind of advice would you give people who are trying to make that impact, if you can? Obviously, we know that your story had, you know, some levels of opportunity, some levels of serendipity. It was kind of a mixed bag. But if someone could do as much as they could intentionally, what would you advise them to do?
So if you want to get into journalism, if you want to get into broadcast, I mean, there's the obvious route of, you know, applying for schemes, going to uni and whatever else. That can only, you know, lead you in certain directions. It's a great opportunity to get in, but otherwise, if you haven't got that, then there's a couple of ways you can go about it. I mean, there's this one guy on the team, Oz. What he did is he worked in finance, earned big bucks, you know, he was doing well, and then he was like, nah, this ain't it. And so he left, and he wanted to get into TV and eventually to journalism. He watched all of his favorite shows, his news shows and whatever else, took down every single person of importance in the credits, found their details online, made a spreadsheet, an Excel, put all their details down, the email addresses, the status report, like, you know, whether or not he's contacted them or he's met them out for coffee. And he's met them up, and actually he's done this very well, actually, and I've advised this to other people because what he did is great. He doesn't ask them for coffee to talk about how they can get into the industry. He says, can we get a coffee so I could, you know, find out more about your journey into journalism? Play the ego, man. Journalists got egos, you know, just, you know, let them talk about themselves. Yeah, I've done that here. And once you've done that, you know, in their stories, you will find answers, but also, you know, you can ask questions afterwards. You've got to be a bit proactive if you want to get into the industry. It is an industry about connections, you know, and so it is about who you know, and that's why, you know, you can argue there is some nepotism and whatever else, but at the end of the day, you know, if you want to get into journalism, you've got to network, you've got to get a hold of these people, have something to show. Don't just, you know, talk about it, you know, and say to someone, oh, I'd like to do it. If I were you, I mean, and this is what I've done, you know, when I first started at Asian Network, the way I went into doing digital videos for them is I said I could edit. Again, you know, I had a moment of, fuck it, I'm going to say yeah. And I had no idea how to do it. Literally just went on Google, went on YouTube, how to do this in this editing software, how to do this, spent an hour looking at that. I made a basic video. They were happy with it, and then just built from there. Go online, you know, look at reports, go on YouTube. There are people out there talking about how you can do a write-up, how you can make your own little report. You know, even ask a journalist, you know, how you do one. Build a show reel, you know, have something. And this is what I advise someone who's currently doing their qualification. She hasn't got anything at the moment in terms of, you know, in her portfolio. Have something, have anything. If anything, it's more impressive if you've not done any training or have any qualifications, but you've got a report you made yourself. Look at how they shoot it, try and replicate that. You look at the questions, you know, think about the questions that would be asked, you know, ask whatever you can, edit it together in free software. See, all of this you can do with just your phone, you know. I can edit voice on here, which, you know, I'm doing at the moment. I can, you know, shoot amazing picture with a camera here. And then, you know, from there, it's just about putting it together. Bang, you've got a little report. It may not be much, but, you know, it's something, and it's something you can do for practically for free if you've got a phone. All that it comes from is an idea. You've got to get an idea of where you want to go. You can't just say, I want to go into journalism. Is there something you particularly want to report on? Do you want to, you know, talk more to Black voices about, you know, their own stories, and, you know, about maybe, you know, Grenfell, or, you know, BLM or Windrush or anything like that? Or do you want to focus on sport, you know, and talk about, you know, player perspectives or transport? You know, there's always, you know, an interest that you're going to have that's going to be more predominant than anything else. Identify what that is, make a little report about it, use that, put it out there. Social media is a powerful tool. The amount of times I've seen people go viral for the littlest of things is incredible. But even just putting it on there, you might get retweeted by the right person, and, you know, you know, that presents an opportunity. At the end of the day, you know, and you said it yourself, there are people out there in the BBC, in, you know, other mainstream media that do want to help, that do want to bring, you know, different voices, more diverse voices into, you know, the media. And my boss is one of them. People around me and my team, they all are, and, you know, whatever else. I'm blessed. I am truly blessed by a great team. I'm someone as well. You will have allies. You just need to plug at it. Don't get disheartened. I'll be honest with you. Journalism is probably easier to get into in terms of breaking the barrier and actually talking to someone than it is, you know, if you were to apply a job in finance or whatever else. Then you have to go through official channels. With journalism, you can cheat a bit, and you can go directly to the source and just say, listen, I want to chat. So I've said a lot there. I don't know if it's a lot of nothing, but at the end of it, play to the ego of journalists when meeting up with them. You'll actually find a lot more answers in their stories than you will in questions that you ask them otherwise. Have something, even if it's like a practice article or practice report, anything, do it anyway. If you are passionate about journalism, you're going to want to do it. So just do it. You know, you've done this podcast off, you know, your own back. And at the end of the day, it just takes that get up and go to say, oh, you know what, I'm going to do this today. Don't be scared. Again, you might have that fear. Oh, it might not be good enough. No one's going to judge you. If anyone is judging you that you haven't got any journalism experience, but your report shit, and, you know, then they're a dickhead. You know, you don't want their opinion. You know, if they're going to judge you for that, someone out there is going to say, oh, you know what, actually, they've done this. They've done it off their own back. They've never done any journalism before. I've got to rate that and admire that. And then from there, you know, connections can be made, and, you know, hopefully work will come of it. But finally, I would say, look into what is not being told. I know it feels like with journalism, you've got a category for every bit of news out there. You've got sport, you've got weather, you've got whatever else. It's still not all done. You know, there's still so much out there, so many people, so many stories that are not being told. Just because it's not out there doesn't mean it's not interesting. It just may be an unfounded gem. So be as creative as possible, and, you know, think about, you know, the people around you. Think about, you know, I don't know, maybe your mum's got an amazing story about how she got into the country, or, you know.
Again, no. 1 second, we will be back. Sorry, bro, you cut out there a little bit again.
Fine, it got me because I was talking for too long. Yeah, so take your, you know, get out of your own shoes, look at it from the outside and think, okay, I see this as an everyday thing, but maybe there's something here. Maybe there's something here that would be interesting to everyone else. So a lot of it is just putting in the groundwork, man, and, you know, being brave enough to talk to people. It's intimidating. I still, like, I had people come up to me recently and say, oh, you're doing an amazing job in the BBC. I can't believe you're talking to me. I still don't understand that, but then I feel I'm in the Beeb. I've been working there for 4 years now. There are senior journalists that I talk to now, and even my own boss that I'm just still a little bit afraid of, and like, ooh, you know, it's fine. You're gonna feel that, but you need to just go for it, because, you know, ain't no one gonna do it but yourself. So
yeah, man. And while you've got the time to do it, you should just go ham, man. I think that's a really big set of advice, especially the finding different stories angle, because I feel like there's always a nuance to every story, or things that you might think are done. There's always another nuance. I like to look at you may not be a big fan, but AFTV Media.
No, man.
I'm plugging them.
Nah.
So obviously we had
Were
sports.
you on there?
I was on there a few years ago. Yeah, a couple years
Oh,
ago. Yeah. They found a way to break into sports journalism in a way that, you know, you would have thought the industry was packed out, and they just came in with this new way of telling it, and here they are.
yeah, you're absolutely right, man.
Yeah.
As much as, like, no matter what anyone personally feels, at the end of the day, they've made a massive success for it, and you know it's a headache. Amount of United fans, Liverpool fans going, "Oh, you AFTV, you love it, huh? You like them? Do you hate Wenger?" Ooh, no. But they've made a success for it. You know, I think, who's it? Like DT, Robbie, and whatever else. They've done stuff for the Sun. I think Troops have done stuff as well. He's got his own little deals going on, and he's appeared on other media. So it's exactly as you say. That's actually a perfect example of it.
Yeah. So, like, you know, they've started off something, and then it's given them opportunities in traditional media, which maybe if they'd just done like the CV cover letter route, it would never have happened. So they just took the action and are now able to, you know, be in this industry. So that I think, yeah, that's an example of what you were saying. So yeah, Omar, man, it's been a sick ride. I've really enjoyed having you on, man, and you know, I was excited to do this because obviously I've seen, like, you are the typical journey of someone who in the creative field who's not necessarily gone the specific route prescribed and gone on some like wacky journey that I've seen like firsthand. So and I'm glad you're able to share a lot of those points about how it came to be that you're in this position. And bro, like I'm excited to see what you do, especially because of the way you were talking about your mission, like the kind of stories that you talk about. For example, I'm definitely going to check out the Eritrean twins. Like, I'm going to search that up ASAP and watch that one because I wasn't aware of that. I've seen a couple. You know, I saw the reality show Blind Date. What was it? Love is Quarantine.
Love is Quarantine.
that was quite a funny one to watch. That was quite funny.
It was. I was up until like 5 o'clock in the morning talking to these girls, and they were amazing, honestly. It was just like, again, the work behind it, just the little edits, a little bit of effort. Even then, like, this is the thing, you know, I've got to say this as well. There's no set way of broadcasting. There's no set way of how things appear on TV. You may look at the news and you've got, what was it, people talking at this angle and, you know, talking to someone there. And this is the typical, you know, news angle that you'll get and you'll see on TV. And then you get a little Aston here saying, this is so-and-so, Omar Mehtab from BBC Click. That ain't always the way to do it. Sometimes it's about, you know, little sound effects or filming things in a weird perspective and, you know, think outside the box, experiment if you can, because at the end of the day, you know, although things may work as the way they are, like my boss said to me afterwards, not only did he love the package, but he loved the fact that I, you know, edited little sound clips of myself or sound effects of like love hearts and stuff or whatever. It just ups the production value. Put in that extra effort. Just, you know, go ham with it, man. Honestly. Sorry, I keep going on. You're trying to finish up.
No, it's cool, man. You're dropping gems, man. You're dropping gems. You know the bit I liked? It was the fact that you put on the shirt and the tie and all that, but you still had the shorts on. And then you kept the shorts in the car. I'm like, bro, you might as well just banged out the vest. I thought you were doing a webcam date, which is why I thought, okay, yeah, but it was just like...
Nah, man, I just wanted to... I'll be honest with you, and that's the thing. You'll get a lot of journalists that will take themselves seriously, and that's calm. You know, you do a good job. It's good. I have no shame. If I'm going to laugh at myself on camera, I'm gonna laugh. I'm going to make a thing of it. So it was, yeah, that was good. I'm wearing shorts now. I won't stand up and show you, but
No,
trust me, I
same.
am.
It's boiling, so it's a necessity, man. Yeah, bro. It's been sick having you on. What things are you excited to work on in the near future, and also where can people find you? Obviously, we've mentioned BBC Click quite a few times, so they'll probably see you there. But yeah, what things are you excited to work on that are coming up, and where can people find you to see those things, bro?
I mean, I've got another couple of reports coming up. They're nothing, as big as what the influencer episode was. Like, I'm looking at virtual reality. I'm looking at e-scooters again, like I did last year. That's my first
Yeah,
EP click. I've got hopefully some big ideas that will, start developing
yeah,
soon. I'm hoping so. But until then, and if anyone does want to check out any of my work,
yeah,
on Twitter at Omar Mehtab, or on Instagram at Omar_Mehtab, or even on YouTube, just type in BBC Click, and then we've got a few episodes on there, not all of them, that you can check out.
mm,
We're on iPlayer, and you know what? Just even if you want to get a hold of me, like DM me or something, even if you want a piece of advice, or you want me to give you some feedback on something, I don't mind. DM me or just email me, omar.mehtab@bbc.co.uk, and I'll be more than happy to help, honestly. So that's it.
wow.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much, man. You heard it there, guys. If you want to reach out to the boy, he's giving you all the contact. There's no excuse now. I want to hear Omar tell me, yo, bare people have asked me for coffee so they can hear my story. Now, bare people, I'm getting taken all over the city. I'm getting taken all over the place. People want to hear me chat.
I'm an
Wow.
introvert, man. I've loved this lockdown, but yeah, that's the one thing I've got to admit. Not meeting people has been fantastic. I don't know about you, but if
What do
more people want to meet
you
up, nah, listen. If I can chill at home in my shorts and not bother, like, I'm golden.
mean?
But yeah,
No.
I'm more than happy to meet with anyone. Honestly, whenever you're comfortable, when the pandemic's over or whatever, even if it's a Zoom, whatever it may be.
That's great, man. So yeah, thanks very much, Omar, for joining us today. For everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed. Uh, it's been another sick episode. I know I'm gonna have a lot of fun listening back. The little cuts I'm gonna get from this, yeah, they're gonna be hard. They're gonna be hard. Trust me. All right, everyone, take care. Thanks for listening. Bye bye. Hey, so thanks for watching this episode on the Garden of Eden. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have, of course, got some value from this. Um, Also, if you want to see more content from me, and little bits of the show before they go live, please follow either my Instagram channel at Dami Edun, or the podcast Instagram channel at Garden of Eden _. And yeah, I'll be looking to give you some more content on those platforms. Yeah, thanks for listening. Safe.